Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Louisiana Association of School Librarians President Program. Tonight, we are very fortunate to have Pennsylvania School Librarian Jen Roth here with us. She's going to talk all about copyright and teaching about copyright. But Jen is a school librarian at North Wales Elementary in Pennsylvania. I will be dropping a link to her presentation and a link to a Padlet. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask a question in the Padlet, and she will get to that. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and take it away, Jen.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm really excited to be here and share all of this information with you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so you can see my presentation. All right, well, welcome. Tonight I'm going to be talking about teaching about copyright. As Amanda said, I am from North Penn School District. I teach students from K through 6. I am in the elementary level. And if you would like to access the presentation tonight, you can scan the QR code in the upper right-hand side. If you would like to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is on the bottom left. And I also have a Facebook page where I put my upcoming events and all the fun that I'm having in my library with my students. And I have that at the bottom right. Once you access the presentation, everything, all the links and everything are directly on there. The first thing I would like to show you tonight is the Wakelet. So one of the first things that I have done when I started creating about copyright is I created a Wakelet. So when I go to presentations, I encourage those attendees to add to the Wakelet. And so throughout the country, I've been presenting. I've presented in California. I've gone to New York. I presented in, now Louisiana. I've done a presentation in Tennessee, Pennsylvania. I've done a couple presentations all over. And also virtual conferences the last 2 years. And again, I ask those to add to the Wakelet. You know, what are you using to educate your students and your staff on copyright, fair use, and the public domain? The Wakelet looks like this, and it is a public Wakelet, so you're always welcome to add to it. We have a couple educators who have already added to it. So again, there's 48 items on the Wakelet already. And this is just a really great resource to go to if you're looking for something to share with your staff or possibly educate your students. And I have presented at Ed Camp, and any presentation that I've done, I take notes on them and then I add them on there as well. Again, there's a QR code for the presentation tonight. If you scan that, you can access it. So feel free to add to the Wakelet. If you have any questions, you can post them to the Padlet, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. And I just want to emphasize, I'm not an expert. I learn as I grow, the same thing I tell my students every day, and we learn as we educate. And so that's the best part about education is every day you learn something new. So the first thing on the Padlet that I would love for you to answer if you are here with us tonight is, what do you know about copyright and fair use? If you click on the link in the Padlet, it will take you to our Padlet tonight. And the Padlet we are going to use a couple times throughout the presentation. You can answer question number 1, what do you know about copyright and fair use? Maybe you can say, I don't really know much, or actually, I feel like I do know a lot, but I would love to know more, Jen. Or, well, I know a little bit, but not as much as I would love to know. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, if you scroll down in the Padlet, here is a spot for you to write down your questions. And then after the presentation, I will get to them. That way we can keep the flow of the presentation going. And of course, I don't want you to forget your question as we are going. And I definitely don't want to miss answering it as well. Plus, just as I tell my students, if you have a question, somebody else probably has the same question. So as we can see, one person wrote very little and it's embarrassing. It's not embarrassing. Before I started going around and doing presentations all over the country, I also knew very little about copyright. but I will show you tonight where you can get educated about copyright and increase your knowledge on the topic. So let's just start with the basics, the very basics of, well, what exactly does copyright cover? So copyright covers any original creative work set down in fixed form. That means it's written down, it could be recorded, it could be digitally saved. When you make an original work, you decide who makes copies, derivative, who distributes those copies, who displays or performs the work in public. So why exactly should we be teaching copyright? Well, it's a basic life skill, a key element in digital literacy. Everyone interacts with and creates media, and we're all publishers now. Our students have Chromebooks, they have TikTok accounts, social media. They have everything at the tips of their hand. Anytime that you ask them a question, sometimes leave an answer, oh, I'll just Google that. We're asking students to be creators. We're empowering them to be creators, to go out of their way and make presentations. We're doing research projects. We want them to be creative. Yet the knowledge of copyright and where they can get information and how they can share their final products, the knowledge among that is very low. And the understanding of it is very low. And that's why it's just important for them to understand that when they make an original work, they are the creators of it. They get to make those copies. They get to decide who gets to display or perform that work in public, who gets to make those copies and those derivatives. So again, why are we teaching copyright? Well, standard groups say kids need to learn about copyright. We have the AASL. We have the ITSE standards. Not understanding copyright can get an organization or district in trouble. Not everything is under fair use just because you're an educator. There is a link here that takes you to the article about the Texas school district ordered to pay $9.2 million in a copyright lawsuit. There was a copyright infringement. They were taking textbooks and just copying them, and they ended up going to court and they lost, and they ended up having to pay $9.2 million. So even if you try saying, well, I didn't know, that's not going to get you out of in trouble. And there's one example. So here's just another question for our Padlet tonight is, how are your students being educated about these topics? So if we go back to the Padlet here, that is question number 2. How are your students being educated about these topics? How are they being educated about copyright? What resources are you using for your students to get images, music for their projects? Maybe they create a podcast and they have music in the background. Where are they getting that music from? If you want to show an educational video in class, where are those videos coming from? Someone just wrote, I am the only one who ever mentioned it to them. Again, this is something that's becoming more and more prevalent and relevant to society that we definitely need to be educating our students about it. I show them sites to get stock photos for fair use. Great. So I'm going to take an educated guess that some of us who are watching tonight are librarians. So I would say that in library class, we're educating them. But what about those projects that they're doing in the regular classroom, or the projects that they're going to go off in college to do? The understanding that they are the creators, and maybe a project that they did in the classroom would fall under fair use, and that image they use in the classroom falls under fair use. But what if they want to advertise it and put it on their social media account? Or what if they want to put it on a public website? It really does change the dynamics depending on where exactly that project ends up in the long run. So one curriculum that I have found is Copywriting Creativity for Ethical Digital Citizens. And what this association does is they have curriculum for elementary, middle school, high school, and they have professional development for teachers, which is really great. And so when I was trying to find something to teach copyright, I wasn't really finding anything. A lot of the curriculum that I did find, which was limited, really started at the age of like 4th grade or was for older students, secondary. And again, I told in the beginning, I teach K to 6. I needed something for my kindergartner. And I came across this website, and they have curriculum and lessons starting in kindergarten, which was really great because it starts the foundation at such a young age. The videos were informative, they're relatable, they give higher level of thinking, the lessons are ready to go. I don't know about you, but during the school year, I am lesson planning and redesigning lesson plans that I've done and modifying and coming up with more innovative ideas. And so when it comes to copyright, it was really nice that I came across this website that already had the lessons ready to go. And so it was kind of like a refreshing to say, okay, I can just print these out. And so here's just one example of what one of the PDFs look like on the website. It already has the purpose, the objectives, the concepts, what grade, what time is required. I mean, this is the lesson plan for you to print out and put on your desk. What you need to prepare for it, what equipment is needed. All of the links are already embedded in the PDF as well. The notes to presenter. We also have, again, there's the links, the lesson plan, exactly what you are going to say. So one thing that I realized when I was asking educators is, why are you not teaching copyright? If this is becoming such an important topic, why are you not teaching it? And some of them said, I just don't know enough about it to have an understanding to educate my students. Or I don't feel comfortable. I'm not sure if I'm going to say the right thing. The best part about these lessons is that the script is in there. This is the script. You can read off of the script. And then after a couple times of teaching your students, you actually are teaching yourself. And so when I first started using these, I told my students, I said, I'm going to be learning as you're learning about these topics, and we're going to be learning together. And I just followed the script. And then after a while, I became better and more educated about the topic, and it was a better understanding of it. So here it all is. And then you have the lesson, part A, what activity you're doing, what exactly the summary is, the question, what the students might say for the response. And then at the bottom here, it has a wrap-up activity that is also in it. The other nice part about it is that when you go to the website, it is broken up into elementary, middle school, high school, professional development. But when you scroll down, the really nice thing is that it's broken up by all the different grade levels. You have the PDF, and then you have the Google Slides. Within the Google Slides, everything is embedded into it. And so you have all of those notes. So everything from that PDF is in the Google Slide. So I print the PDF and I leave it on my desk. And with the Google Slide, what I do is I have it on the board for my students and myself. And then I go through it. And here it is, getting the wheels turning. So this is lesson grade 2, creativity and sharing fairly. The videos are embedded directly in it, so I don't have to click the links and then share the video. The videos are embedded directly into the Google Slide, which is perfect. The really nice thing is that it goes back to the previous years. So that way you can look back and build upon those skills that the students have already learned in the kindergarten and first grade in this lesson. And so what I like to do is I like to share the kindergarten video, click play, click on the first grade video, click play, and just be like a review. And some of the students are like, oh, I remember this. And they get really excited to see these videos. Yes, they get excited to see these videos. What student gets excited about copyright? I'm sure some of you, when we said about talking about copyright, you were like, all right, we're going to talk about copyright tonight. No. The other reason I love these lessons because they're so positive and their excitement. It's not about what you can't do. It's about what you can do. It's about empowering our students to be their creators and what they can do. I don't know about you, but I don't like being told what I can't do. And I definitely know that my 5th and 6th graders, or actually any child for that matters, doesn't like being told what they can't do. They want to know what they can do. And so these lessons are really great for that as well. The other nice thing is that everything is in here. So if you open it up, underneath in the speaker notes is going to be exactly what you are going to say, the discussion, what you're going to say, what the students might say throughout the entire presentation and the videos. Then at the bottom here, the parent newsletter to send home. Again, advocating. As librarians, we need to advocate for ourselves. We need to advocate that we are more than just reading a story and book selection in our libraries. And so this is digital citizenship at its best. And so what I love to do is I like to print out a copy of this. I put my name on it at the bottom, again, giving attribution, because copyright and creativity for ethical digital citizens is already on there. And there it is, ready to go. I have gotten so much feedback from parents who are like, wow, I didn't even know you taught these topics in school, nonetheless teaching it in the library. And so it was really neat getting that positive feedback from parents. And then also just, again, advocating, of course, teaching the topic that is important for them to be taught, and then adding on year after year after year. And then I already said, positive message, emphasizing kids' own roles as the creator. These resources are completely free. They're not free now, and then we're going to pay for them later. So they are funded by a grant. Even if the grant goes away, these resources will always be free. The grant is only for hands-on training, like for me being here tonight, educating all of you and sharing these great resources. And so the lesson plans, the slides, the videos, the PD course for teachers, the supplemental resource, everything is completely free and will always be free. We were also named one of the best digital tools for AASL for teaching and learning in 2021. I highly encourage you to check out those other digital tools from AASL. Right here on the website is the copyright and creativity. I'm sure you can recognize a lot of these other ones, Britannica, Byte, Slides Mania, Novel Effect Noodle Tools. I know Wakelet is on here somewhere, which I was just showing. There it is, Wakelet, which I was just showing all of you. And so absolutely. I don't know about you, I always check this list. So if you're looking for a new tech tool or something to implement in your library, checking out this list. I do it every year before school starts. Speaking of toolkits, so I want to say it was like 2 summers ago during the pandemic, there was a group of librarians who crowdsourced this ebook called Digital Librarian Survival Toolkit. I was one of those librarians who was on there. And one of the topics that I did on Book Creator, another tech tool is unbelievable. I use it with my students, was one of the topics that I did was teaching copyright and creativity. The resources are on there. Again, why teaching copyright, the curriculum that we have. If you click on here, all of these links will take you to the proper, if you want elementary videos, middle school, high school, professional development. If you scroll over, it will talk about the Teach Act, the 4 factors of fair use, which we'll get to, the permission part. Now, this was more during the pandemic. There were publishers that were giving permission for you to read their books aloud. During like live YouTube videos, that has decreased since then. We also have free webinars. There's PD courses, other resources. We've done past webinars that you can listen to, and then registering on our website as well. But this is not just the copyright and creativity. There are so many different tech tools on here. I highly recommend you checking out. Here's another one I did, literacy with STEAM activities. If you just click down here, click to return to index, it will take you to a whole bunch of other ones. Again, phenomenal, amazing. Definitely check it out. All right. One of the other things that copyright and creativity offers are free infographics. So 10 things you should know about copyright. We have an infographic there. It's downloadable. So you can download it, print it out. There's also one, free speech, copyright, and fair use. And then it has a, let's see if I can scroll down. There it is. May I use this? You can ask questions and it takes you down to see like yes or no questions. And at the bottom, like, is it fair use or is it not fair use? I have these hanging up in the copy room. And so right above all the copiers in my school, I have these hanging up. I also have them hanging in my library. The one suggestion that I have for you is that if you're going to hang these up at the bottom and put like a little note just saying where they came from, because teachers were reading them and then they would have a question and they were like, I don't know who put these up. I don't know who to ask questions if I have questions to. And so then I put a little memo at the bottom, and then they were able to come to me and ask a question. And I wasn't even able to answer all of their questions they had. And I had to reach out to other ambassadors that we have and answer them. So again, I'm not an expert. I'm learning as I go. And so the nice part is that at least it got their minds thinking and the wheels spinning for all of us to really just be like, yes, it is copyright. And yes, even though you're an educator, not everything is considered fair use. If you would like copies of these free infographics, they're like, I forget what their size is, but I have it on here in another slide. You can request them. Right now they're sitting in a garage. I would like them out of the garage, and rather than being in your schools, you can request as many as you want. Because shipping is so expensive, I would rather you request like 10, 50, 100 at a time, completely free. We ship them out completely free to you, so you don't have to worry about any expenses at all. We understand that you're educators and we don't expect you to pay for anything. So, you can just request those by clicking on this link and then filling out the information, and we'll get them out to you as soon as possible. There's also supplemental materials. We have presenter instructions. Again, those infographics you can download on your own, independent learning videos. You can download the entire lesson plans and everything directly into a Google Drive folder. And that way you can access it versus going to the website and getting everything directly from there. So the question that I get a lot is, well, when, where, and how should I be using these lesson plans? And so here's just examples of when I use them in my library. The Respect the Person, which is the lesson for kindergarten and first grade, is just talking about making sure you put your name on your paper. And I do that as a standalone in the beginning of the school year. And what I do is I have students maybe draw their favorite picture about their summer or something about themselves, just so that I can, build rapport with my students, and they draw their picture and then I have them hand it in. Well, most of them forget to put their name on it. So what I do is I take my dock camera and I put their picture underneath, and I just start calling out random students' names. I'm like, oh, great job, Henry, and great job, Delaney. And they're like, wait, that was my picture. Wait, no, that was my picture. That was my picture. And I'm like, oh, it's okay. Well, then towards the end, they're like, but Mrs. Roth, that was my picture. And I talk about, well, how do you feel right now? And they're like, I kind of feel really sad that you're saying that picture was so-and-so's, but that really was mine. And then we talk about the word attribution, and we talk about making sure that you are taking ownership of your own work. My kindergarten first grade teachers love this. I do it in October because September, I'm still building rapport in August and September with my students. So I don't want to first meet them and then, do that activity, of course. And so I do that activity in October. But after that, my kindergarten first grade teachers are like, thank you so much. They do not forget to put their name on their paper after that. And we can tell that you did that. But again, that's just a standalone. Another one that I do is aligned with the project. So creativity in the online world, our roles as creators and consumers, creating new content using others' work. So I do that as a research project. We have a biography project in 5th grade. We do country projects. I did a Shark Tank project this school year, which was really fun. And so where can we get our images? Where can we use somebody else's work from? And if copyright protects other people's work, where can I get information from? And these lessons really have some good information in them. And then one thing about being an educator that I truly love is just I'm still reflecting on my lessons. Even after 11 years of teaching, I love what I do, and I reflect on my teaching. So sometimes you have a lesson that goes really, really well, and sometimes you have a lesson that doesn't go so well, and you think about, well, what can I do to better it for next time? Well, here are some responses from my kindergarten to 3rd grade students about these lessons. So Respect the Person was about the attribution. I'm never forgetting to put my name on my paper again. That was a little kindergartner. The other one was Collaboration. It's great to create and play fair. It would be cool if my friend took the picture I drew and put it on a t-shirt, but only if they told everyone it was my picture. So this one was about a student who took a picture but then was trying to claim it as their own, and they needed to ask the person, if the other student, if they could use their picture for a t-shirt. And then sharing fairly. I would be mad if someone took the picture I made and did something with it before asking me. And then here's the 4th through 6th. I was really intrigued with my student reactions in 4th through 6th grade, which is why I definitely wanted to add them in here in the presentation. I didn't realize I had so much power over everything I created. That resonated with me. Like, if I would not have been teaching these lessons or even talking about copyright, students, my 5th grade student, that particular 5th grade student would have made another project, another presentation, and then what? And so it really resonated with me that that student didn't realize that they had so much power, that they got to say who made copies, who got to distribute, who gets to share their work, and that even out in the real world, they get to have those decisions. I really like the fact that I can create anything I want and people have to ask my permission to use it or share it with others. Doesn't this mean teachers should be asking me to use my creative work on their website or with the class? That was a great discussion starter, as I wrote there. If almost everything is covered by copyright, what are we allowed to use? And I say it like that because that's exactly how the 4th grader said it to me. If everything's covered by copyright, what are we allowed to use, Mrs. Roth? And that introduction video was sparked their interest in wanting to know more. So again, that went back with this lesson of creating new content using others' work. So there's the Wakelet again. Just wanted to share it out in case anybody has added to it since then. So here's the next part. May I use this? Situations in education. Here's just a few situations in education that we come across. I could spend hours on this topic, questions that we get and everything. I don't have hours, but I'm always happy to answer those questions for you. You can always put them in the Padlet if you have specific questions. You can always join me in office hours, which I'll talk about at the very, very end. But here's just some main ones that I get. Using copyrighted works in school. Number 1, the specific exception is for in-class teaching. It is okay to display or perform copyrighted work in class if it's face-to-face instruction, meaning it's in the 4 walls of your classroom, nonprofit educational institution. The copy the teacher is using was lawfully obtained. That one I just want to touch base on a little bit. We have a lot of teachers who love Teachers Pay Teachers. They create something, they put it on Teachers Pay Teachers. I have teachers who are excited about something they saw on Teachers Pay Teachers. But usually when you purchase something on Teachers Pay Teachers, it's just one license that you purchased. And so if hypothetical situation, I purchased something on Teachers Pay Teachers, I think it's phenomenal. I think it's amazing. I want to share it with Amanda. Amanda thinks it's amazing. Amanda would need to go on and purchase her own copy of that because I purchased it with one license for my library, my classroom. And if Amanda wanted to use it in her library, she would need to go on and purchase it herself so that she would have one license for her library, her classroom. Sometimes that doesn't happen. And so we just want to be respectful of that. Again, the copy the teacher is using was lawfully obtained. Another example is when teachers will purchase one copy of a book and then they like to go and they make PDFs of the book. That is also not okay. Using copyrighted works in school, fair use. The purpose and character of your use. There's 4 factors of fair use. That's one of them. Nature of the original, amount and substance, and the effect on the market that has when you're using that work. Creative Commons, public domain, and then subscriptions. Subscriptions is always that gray area, I feel, because some people are like, well, I'm allowed to use that. And then someone else is like, well, no, that's copyright infringement. Well, if somebody does have the subscription to a certain movie or video, then technically they are allowed to use it if they have that subscription, where maybe another school or district does not have a subscription to it, and then they are not allowed to use it. But we also have Creative Commons and we also have the public domain. So Creative Commons, what exactly is it? Creative Commons is a licensing system, allows creators to give others permission to use their work. You can use as much as you want as long as you follow their terms. One thing that people don't realize is that there are different Creative Commons licenses. One thing that I love to do with my students is when they're done with the presentation, I tell them, okay, now what license are you going to give? And I show them the Creative Commons licenses and I tell them, well, which one do you want to do? Do you want to let people use the work and do whatever they want with it as long as they give you credit? Do you want to give them the chance to add or change the work, but they must share it with the same license and so forth? So I explain all the different licenses and I let them decide on what license they want to use. And that's pretty exciting for them because they're like, I never thought about that before. And so again, they're gaining ownership of their own work that they've created. Public domain, copyright expires and all creative work falls into the public domain. That's another way that you can get work to use. We also have Google usage rights search. So you can go to Google, click on the tools, go to images, and put in Creative Commons licenses. Again, though, even though you're putting Creative Commons licenses, again, as I just said, there are different Creative Commons licenses. So you need to make sure that your students are looking at those different licenses and how they are allowed to be used. Which is another reason why I kind of take them backwards of creating their own project. Something like short and sweet, or even just like an image that they drew on their own, giving themselves a license. And then I show them the Google usage rights search. And then they have a better understanding of the different licenses for the Creative Commons. Here's some other photo options that I use with my students. They're all linked here if you want to click on any of them. I also explain to my students what they are. So I say to them, you can use Pics for Learning, but read what it says. Pics for Learning is a curated image library that is safe and free for education. And I emphasize education. I go, what's the key word? And they're like, education. And I'm like, yes. And then we have Kids Picture Search. Kids Search provides free images, clip art, and our graphics for use in the educational setting. What's the key word? And then they shout educational setting. So again, I say to them, if you're using it in an educational setting or in your classroom, it's okay. But let's say you want to have a pet sitting business in the summer or you want to mow lawns, then it's not going to be okay for you to get images from those two websites. And again, it's just getting them to the life skills for them so that they can apply this, not just in library class, but also in the classroom, but also in real life. And there's some other examples there too. And I'm sure you have your own examples that you use as well. If you have any other ones that you can think of, please add it to the Wakelet. I love to build this. Here's using others' work. So here's an article. The famous book, The Poet X, is on there. So here is a photo of a photographer who took the photo. And when Poet X came out, she said, I think that's my photo on the book. And so she sued. Here's the article. I pulled it up. Here's the article. So she was a little upset. She's like, I wanted my work to be everywhere, but not like this, not without anyone knowing it's me, not without being credited. I worked hard to get my camera and spend all this money. This is making me really upset. And so this is an example of copyright infringement. The illustrator of the book is saying, no, this is not your picture. This is still in the courts, believe it or not. But there was a fan who took this picture and put it over the cover on Twitter. And this is kind of cool. So, you use your best judgment on what you think. If it was transformative enough, or if it really was copyright infringement, you decide.
Jen, I remember that blew up on Twitter. That was like all I read about for like a total week was about that. Yeah.
Yes. And again, it has not been solved yet. It has not concluded. The photographer actually was trying to get the illustrator of the cover for plagiarism. And then when it went to court, they're like, this isn't plagiarism, it's copyright infringement because there's a difference between plagiarism and copyright infringement. And then that's where it was. But yes, it was big. It was very big. The other one was, here's another example. A school played The Lion King at a fundraiser. Disney's licensing firm fined it for not having the usage rights. Disney movie for entertainment purposes requires a public performance license. This is the article for that. It was like a home and school, a PTA in California hosted a parents' night out. They were trying to say, we just had the movie going in the background in the auditorium when the kids were playing. And Disney ended up suing them. There was, that actually blew up also on the internet. People were very upset. Why would you be suing a school? Disney probably could have sued them for a lot more, but they were just trying to set them as an example. So again, another example of, do you have the license to use the items or materials that you're using? And then the last one I'm going to share is a lot of people are doing story walks lately. If you're not familiar with Storylock, it is a phenomenal program. We just started it at our school this year. And what it is you take a book and you take the book apart and you put it around your school or around your community. And it's like one page at a time the students can read as they're walking around. And that's what it is. And so that way it encourages families to come out, bringing the community together, and again, in a way where they can read together and everything. It's really exciting and fun. And it is a trademark, and some people don't realize that it's a trademark. And so there are some rules that you have to follow because it is a trademark. There's the article on it, and then the frequently asked questions if you are looking at doing a story walk, or if you already are doing a story walk. Anytime that you use the word story walk, you need to make sure that you have the trademark symbol behind it, because it is a trademark. And that is something that I learned this year when we were looking at doing story walk. The public library was already doing story walk, and when I was talking to the librarian there, she said, Jen, Storywalk is a trademark. You want to make sure you're following all the guidelines. And I said, oh, so again, I was learning this school year and I did not know that. And these were questions that were coming about. The other thing that is really important to know is that when you do a story walk, you have to buy multiple copies of the book. You can't just buy one copy of the book and then photocopy it because of the fact that you have to rip apart the book. You can't have the front and back of it. So you have to buy multiple copies of the book. And also another issue that came up with this, which I couldn't find the article for it, I couldn't find the article again about it. It was somewhere, but there was a district that was taking the book, and instead of using the entire book, they were only using some pages of the book. So you need to make sure that if you are using a book, that you're not censoring the book, that you are using the entire book, and that you're not taking out certain pages or anything like that. And so again, those are some topics of situations in education that I have come across from presenting at conferences that people have asked. And there's that. So this leads us back to the Padlet, which I'm going to get to in just a minute. I just want to follow up with, there is a free professional development course on the website that you can check out. It is through Canvas. You do not have to be a Canvas district using district. Actually, if you are a Canvas school, we need you to use a personal email because it won't let you on it. So it is completely free. It is at your own pace. That is something that I did in the beginning. It's about 2 to 3 hours, again, at your own pace. And then we also have office hours. So I don't know about you, but sometimes as a librarian, I feel a little isolated. I'm the only librarian in my building, as probably almost all of us. And so this is really nice at office hours. If somebody comes and asks you a question, or an administrator or a teacher, and you're just not sure of the answer, I'm not sure what to say. What you can do is you can join us on office hours. Our office hours are on the website. They're updated every month as to when they are. They're Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 4 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. So for you, well, it depends on which time zone you're in, actually. So you can join us on any of those days. You can ask your questions and, we can just openly talk and just, help guide you. We don't want anyone to feel like, they don't have anyone to talk to, or just, again, we don't want anyone to feel isolated. I am always there. I'm always excited to talk to other librarians and hear what's going on in other schools and other districts, even if I'm from Pennsylvania. I just love, hearing what is happening in your schools. And then for more information or infographics, there it is. We also have a Twitter. It's Copyright Create. My Twitter is there. Don't forget to register at Copyright and Creativity for updates, the latest information. We send an email out probably like once a month, once every 2 months. We don't inundate you with emails, I promise. That's something that we don't do. We know you're busy, and we want you to see our email and be like, "Ooh, this is important." We don't want you to see our email and be like, "Okay, delete." So if you see an email from us, it's because something new is coming out. We do have a new presentation coming out, hopefully in August, talking about where you can get images, where you can get music, where you can find movies and videos and in the public domain or Creative Commons, or where you can get resources for your classroom or your library for students. So it has been a pleasure being here tonight. I know I'm saying I'm excited about copyright, but truly, I truly am excited about copyright because this is such a topic that I feel like is growing. When I first started out 11 years ago, I would never imagine I was talking about this. I feel 11 years ago, copyright was, just a topic that people cringed when they heard about, but I'm really hoping that I can bring some positivity and get our students empowered and excited to be their own creators and not have this topic, have anybody cringe at this topic anymore, and just get excited about you're your own creator. All those lesson plans that you're making, everything that you're doing in your library, some of those, again, you're a creator just as much as your students are. So thank you so much for having me here tonight.
Thanks, Jen. And I'm sitting here, I'm taking so many notes, like I was writing down things you said, and I'm like, people probably think I'm not paying attention because I'm like sitting there, and I was looking at the Wakelet on my phone while you were talking, and I'm like writing down notes. It's just so interesting, and there's so many facets, different facets to what's involved in copyright and public domain and fair use. And something you said about our students are creators. It's so true because they are constantly creating. We have kids that create slide decks just for fun to share with each other. They're constantly creating, and they need to know what's acceptable, what's not. But also, you hit on something that I've been thinking about a lot this past year about educators. As educators, we should know what's acceptable and what's not. And as someone who has had my slide decks taken and posted on Teacher Pay Teacher, and someone was getting paid for my work, I can, it can get pretty rampant on some of those sites, and the movie licensing and the Netflix and like things like that. I think it comes from a place of sometimes educators just don't realize it, and so the more we talk about it, which is why I was glad it got Copyright and Creativity got 2021 ASL digital tool, because I'm like, okay, people are going to be talking about it now and sharing, because there's just so much information on there. And I didn't realize that there was PD and office hours. Like, I've gone to the website many times, but I didn't realize that there was PD and office hours. So now I know that.
Well, so many good resources. I mean, and I don't think it's just a librarian's job. I feel like we may be the ones to put that information out, but we need to, because there was some finger pointing of, oh no, that's their job. Oh no, it's all of our jobs, especially in the world that we live in. We're constantly online, pulling stuff, getting stuff, making stuff. So
even I'll make a TikTok, and I'm like, well, can I post this music? Is it? Yeah. It's part of TikTok. Is it? And it gets sticky, and and I've had to learn no about those things, and I get frustrated. But I love that Copyright and Creativity has this website where we can go on and learn everything, and especially how it breaks it down. Even you said kindergarten, and And it amazes me. You're talking about these things you do with your kids. I'm like, I need to up my game because
I know.
those kindergartners and first graders can do that. My fifth and sixth graders can surely do that. But I did want to thank you again, Jen, for coming to speak with us tonight about copyright. And I am going to post on our LASL Facebook and Twitter page your information, your Twitter handle, and your information for everybody to access it. And while we have everyone, I did want to mention we have 2 additional upcoming webinars. We have one with our Livingston Parish Public Library, Michelle Parrish and Kyla Robertson, which is Tammy, and that's our parish that we live in. So I'm so excited to hear Michelle and Kyla talk about partnering with your public library. And then I'll be partnering with Steve Tatra from New Jersey and Wendy Prey and Deb Zeman from Texas. And we're going to be doing an upcoming webinar on using professional reviews for collection development. So I did want to share that while we are talking. But Jen, thank you again so much for I learned, like, I'm seriously like, if you can see my face, I was like writing stuff down left and right until I realized I hope people think I'm it and don't think I'm
Well, I can't wait to go dig in there. It's like something else for me to do tomorrow.
But thank you so much, Jen. And if anybody has any questions, we'll post Jen's contact information and I'll post my contact information, and you can always access the LASL website and ask us questions. So we're going to end it now, and we hope everyone has a good evening. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.